I never set foot on the Woodberry campus until I interviewed here for a job, and I was 30 years old at the time. I spent the first 6 years of my career at another school, at a tiny little school in Georgia. It was a great experience for me because they had me doing everything from coaching girls basketball to advising the yearbook, the newspaper, the literary magazine, and teaching senior, junior, and freshman English. They had me doing everything. When I got to Woodberry at age 30, I realized immediately that this was the kind of place where I could keep on working as hard as I'd been working earlier, but that would allow me to see the results of my labors. This is a place that had it figured out, that knew what it wanted, knew how to go about achieving what it wanted, and made it possible for the faculty and the students to get there. I was 30. I am now 62 years old. I've spent over half my life at Woodberry, and I am so very grateful for those first 30 non-Woodberry years so that I could have a context to appreciate just how great it is. I am trying to imagine what the school would look like if we had no financial aid, if we just had full pay students in the entire student body. And it would be a really dull place. Look at what happens in an English classroom. Just one discussion in English class. You can have a perfectly lively discussion when everybody is agreeing with everybody else. You can all decide that Kenneth Branagh's version of Hamlet ends in a terrible way, and everybody can pile on and have his attitude confirmed by everybody else. But that's not a really valuable discussion. The best discussions are the ones when everybody in the room brings a different point of view. And once you get that variation in point of view, you suddenly get your assumptions challenged, and you have to defend those. You may not change your mind at all, but you have to figure out why you believe what you believe and why your attitudes are what they are, not simply something you've accepted. So when we get a diverse student body, everybody benefits. Everybody is improved because everybody is challenged to think. This past summer, I got an email from Chris Swan, who graduated from Woodberry in the late 1980s. Chris has since gone on to become an English teacher himself. He's got a PhD. He's very successful in Atlanta, but he was writing about the news that he had had his first novel accepted for publication by Algonquin Press, which is, as you know, a very, very fine imprint. They don't fool around with mediocrity at Algonquin. So Chris had arrived, and he was writing to say thanks because when he was in junior English here, we did a project on collaborating on a novel. All the 16 boys in the class wrote one chapter of a novel which they had outlined and planned themselves so that it had a beginning, a middle, and end, continuity of characters, et cetera, et cetera. And he cited that as his very first time of realizing that a novel was something that you wrote one page at a time, not some gigantic text that sprang full-blown from the forehead of the brilliant artist. So of course, Chris, between Woodberry and now, has had lots and lots of other teachers, lots and lots of other experiences, but that one little moment at Woodberry was enough to get him started. As far as I know, I've done that project many years since then. I don't know of anybody else who's gone on to write a novel, but that's really not the point of it. The point is that every boy who goes through that exercise understands that a novel is a thing that anybody can write. It's a matter of tenacity, not a matter of brilliance. It's 1985. I have been at Woodberry for exactly 3 years, but that's long enough. I'm qualified to apply for a faculty incentive grant. and I do, and I get it. $2,500 in 1985 allows me to fly to London, rent a flat in Belsize Park for 6 weeks, and pursue my project, which is to study the stage history of Shakespeare's King Lear. It was, without a doubt, the best summer I've ever had in my life. Now here's what happened. I not only got to know Lear, but I got plugged into the British Library. I still have my reader's ticket from that summer. I still use that all the time whenever I go back to London. I got to know the Bodleian Library in Oxford. I got to know the Shakespeare Centre in Stratford. I got to know the University of London, the University College Library. I got plugged in to the research of London, but I also got to know England. 10 years later, when the headmaster asked me to set up the Woodberry and Oxford program, I was all ready to go with that. I was prepared because I knew Oxford. I'd gotten to know the place, and 20 years later, the Woodberry and Oxford program is still going. Even better than that, though, from a personal perspective, I had my students writing about Shakespearean stage history. They were researching it. It's a great way into a play. And I enjoyed that experience so much that summer that I came back and I tried to capture it by writing a novel about it. Now, the novel that I wrote, called Summer's Lease, never got published, but writing that novel gave me the wherewithal, I suppose, to go on and write a second novel, and that novel did get published. So all because of this one faculty incentive grant, you had this huge ripple effect, not just for me, but for the school. It was a wonderful investment by Woodberry.